Assassin's Creed, guys, has without a doubt been one of my favorite franchises of all time, but more recently than not, I've been very critical of this franchise and the direction that it's gone. So in this last segment of the show, guys, we're going to talk about Assassin's Creed Valhalla once again, but I also want to talk about just where this franchise went wrong and how can we see this franchise go in the right direction once again. So let's talk about it. So guys, I want to talk about Assassin's Creed as a whole. Look, so I got into Assassin's Creed from the very beginning in 2007 with Assassin's Creed. This was a game that came out, guys, 2007 on PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and Windows. I got it on the Xbox 360, and there was something about this game that was just very different. My cousin was actually the one who actually got me into it, saying that this was a really great game, that you have to try it out. It's very different and really has a cool story to it, and the character's very mysterious and all of that. So I ended up getting it, playing it, and I thought to myself, this is a really interesting concept. I wonder if they're going to continue, with this franchise, because this might be something that could be special. And then, of course, guys, not only did they start making more games, but they were making them pretty much very regularly. I mean, they were bringing out a new Assassin's Creed game essentially every single year, and they've been pretty much doing that ever since 2007, even though some of these are obviously, with expansions, also bringing out games on like the Nintendo DS and the PlayStation Portable and things of that nature. But if we talk about the main franchise here, the main storyline, all of that, the main expansions to this franchise, we're talking, of course, guys, Assassin's Creed, and then, of course, Assassin's Creed 2 that came out in 2009. And what I'll say is this: a lot of people think that Assassin's Creed 2 was some people say it was one of, if not the best out of the entire franchise. I would say it was pretty good. I enjoyed Assassin's Creed 2. I thought it was very well done. When you got to Brotherhood in 2010, I was thinking to myself, man, this is really, they're starting to build something here. Kind of reminding me of Call of Duty, because Call of Duty was starting to come out every single year. And so it was starting to kind of remind me of that with Brotherhood. And I thought Brotherhood was an interesting concept. Once we got to Revelations, that was, in my opinion, close to the pinnacle of this franchise. Even though with Revelations, I'm one of those people that was, when I was playing the story, it was very much so like, where are they going here? Like, it was kind of, you're wondering, where is this franchise going at this point? Because I really enjoyed the games. Obviously, like I was really getting into the story, but it was starting to get very convoluted between, like, the Animus and of course, going into the Assassin's Creed world itself, and where are they going with this story? And after Revelations, it kind of felt to me like they started going in different directions. And this is where I kind of felt that they started having somewhat of an identity crisis, even though Assassin's Creed 3 in 2012 and then Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag in 2013, I thought were very good additions to the franchise. I thought that they were still very good. And actually, when you really think about it, I thought Black Flag was the literal pinnacle of this franchise. It was at its best, in my opinion. Like, I thought that even though it was kind of starting to get a little bit confusing with the story itself, it was still very good with the gameplay mechanics and just the different places that we were playing at. But then after Black Flag, we got Rogue, we got Unity, and at the end of the day, guys, even Freedom Cry, right? But really, Rogue in 2014, Unity in 2014, and then Syndicate in 2015. Now, I'm not going to say that these were all bad, right? But I'm going to say that Unity and Rogue, I was not a fan of whatsoever. I was thinking, okay, they're bringing out two of these, they're starting to pump out way too much content for Assassin's Creed, and it's starting to get very, not only was it getting confusing as far as the story's concerned, then we're starting to just have so many different options as far as how we wanted to connect with the franchise. And then, of course, guys, in 2015, you had, of course, Assassin's Creed Syndicate, which I thought had some interesting concepts, but once again, didn't land extremely well, in my opinion. And then we come to, of course, Assassin's Creed Chronicles, which, of course, you had one in China, then you had the Chronicles in India as well as Russia in 2016, which I did not like whatsoever. And that just led us into Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla at this point, which we're going to talk about Valhalla because, of course, that's not out yet. It's going to be coming out later this year, but Origins and Odyssey. These two, in my opinion, guys, I think that At this point, I think that they're two of the worst out of all of the Assassin's Creed games that we've had up to this point. Now, I'm not going to include in there the games on Nintendo DS, the games on iOS and Android. I'm talking the main expansions of this franchise. I'm saying that Odyssey and Origins, I just didn't think that they were very good whatsoever. I thought that they totally went away from what made the series great. Now, why did they do this? Well, maybe because since Assassin's Creed in 2007, all the way up to Assassin's Creed Origins, maybe a little bit before that, they were basically doing the exact same thing. You know, they were it was kind of the tradition of Assassin's Creed, and they thought to themselves, well, we need to change things up to kind of freshen things up, which is what they definitely did with Origins and Odyssey. Comparing it once again to Call of Duty had this great stretch of games. They had, peaks and valleys, of course, but then once they got to the jetpack era, that being, Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, Call of Duty Black Ops 3, and Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, those were, in my opinion, the dark ages of Call of Duty. And now I feel that Assassin's Creed with Origins, Odyssey, and potentially Valhalla, we may be in the dark ages of Assassin's Creed. I hope not. I hope Valhalla is great, but it feels like, from the trailers at least, it's going to be more of the same. But look, I think at the end of the day, Ubisoft decided, well, we got to change some things up, because if we don't change things up, then, it's going to get stale. And so I get it. I totally get what they're thinking here, but I don't think that the problem was things getting stale. I think the problem was they were making too many games. They were treating Assassin's Creed like it was a Call of Duty, but even it was like a Call of Duty on steroids. I mean, we're talking, guys, you're talking Assassin's Creed Chronicles, India and Russia both came out in 2016. Chronicles China, as well as Assassin's Creed Syndicate, both in 2015. 2014 was filled with Assassin's Creed Freedom Cry, Assassin's Creed Rogue, Assassin's Creed Identity, and Assassin's Creed Unity. Sure, not all those are on consoles, but some of them are, and then others are on Android and iOS. Look, guys, at the end of the day, it comes down to oversaturation, and that's what happened with this franchise. If they would have just, look, coming out with an Assassin's Creed game on iOS and Android is fine, and they update it over time. Don't bring it out and then bring out more of iOS and Android games. I just don't see the point of that. It's like with Call of Duty, they made a Call of Duty Online, right? And it's a, mobile game, or it should be a Call of Duty Mobile is what it's called. And so Call of Duty Mobile comes out, and they're probably just going to keep updating. I don't think they're going to make a Call of Duty Mobile 2. They're most likely just going to keep it at that, and they're going to consistently be updating it. And so I kind of wish that Assassin's Creed did something similar to that, if they're going to try to basically do exactly what Call of Duty has done up to this point. It just feels like it's just overkill when it comes to Assassin's Creed. Now, let's talk about today. With Assassin's Creed Valhalla getting, of course, their reveal trailer, and I said this already earlier in the show, that Valhalla looks visually stunning. It looks visually incredible, right? But it feels like more of the same. It feels like more of the same that what they continued with Origins and Odyssey. It just feels like they're kind of continuing that. And look, we got to wait till we see game footage, actual gameplay, and then when we get our hands on the game to really give a proper assessment of it. But it just, look, guys, when you look at this, it's like, okay, Vikings and Roman soldiers and, all of that. They don't seem like assassins, which is what you're supposed to be playing as, is a part of the creed, right? And sure, they're most likely going to tie it in somehow or another to the overarching story, or are they? It's hard to say. But what Assassin's Creed got wrong is not the fact that they were making, they had to change the formula. It's the same thing with Call of Duty. Call of Duty felt like we got to change the formula. No, you don't need to change the formula. You just got to stop pumping out, games every single year, or multiple games every single year. That's really what it comes down to. Make the story make more, sense. I feel like between Assassin's Creed, India and Russia, or the Chronicles that came out, or I should really say Syndicate. After Syndicate, what they should have done was done an overhaul on Assassin's Creed, at least for a few years. Come up with the story, how it's going to really tie in back into the story, and kind of go from there. Kind of revamp everything, take your time. It feels like, Odyssey and Origins, I mean, one comes out in 2017, the next comes out in 2018. Not saying that it's not okay to do that, guys, but at the end of the day, it just feels that they're pumping out way too much content for everyone, which a lot of people, usually that's a good thing, but when we're talking about a massive franchise like this, and you're trying to tie in different stories and narratives and such, you really want to kind of take your time somewhat, in my opinion, and do what made this series so great. I'll give you another example. Dead Space. Dead Space up to this point has 3 games, and we don't know if there's really a future for the Dead Space franchise. A series that started off as a horror franchise, and then, of course, you had Dead Space 1 and then 2. It's a shooter, of course, third-person shooter, but it started as a horror game, and then in the 3rd game, they tried to change things up, and they made it an action game. And so it's an action horror, which people didn't like that it's an action horror. They wanted it to just be really a horror shooter at the end of the day. And so what Assassin's Creed did was they went from being a stealth RPG to an action RPG. And so they went away from what pretty much made the series so great. Now, sure, do they all have great visuals? Absolutely. Do they have decent stories? I mean, at the end of the day, Origins and Odyssey, I'm not going to say that the stories were absolutely terrible, but what I will say about it is they changed that now. Not only is it, the story itself that you're trying to get into, they force you to do side missions and side quests and such in order to continue the main story. And that really bothered me as well. I like to, if I'm starting to get into a story and I want to start, understanding things better, being pulled out of that story to do side quests is a very annoying thing, at least in my opinion. I'd love to hear yours in the comment section below about that. But it just feels like forcing someone to do side quests when you're getting into a story is just not the way to do it. And I understand they want you to take in everything that the game encompasses, but I like doing it at my own pace. Also, having multiplayer, having co-op modes are also very good things in this franchise. I believe it was Assassin's Creed Brotherhood was the first time that they introduced multiplayer, and I thought the multiplayer concepts were so unique to Assassin's Creed, and I loved it. I thought it was great having a game that was like a stealth multiplayer. It was really great concepts, but they didn't really continue it in a major way. They kind of just tried it out with Brotherhood, and I'm not saying that they're not trying multiplayer modes and such, but I would love to see more multiplayer as well as an emphasis on co-op in a stealth way. You can make it action, guys. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's almost like having a Splinter Cell game. Splinter Cell changing from stealth to action, which is kind of what happened with the most latest Splinter Cell, Blacklist. So what I'm getting at here, guys, is when a franchise goes away from what makes it great, you're going to lose part of that fan base over time. And I'm just saying that this is what one man's thoughts are on it. Valhalla looks visually great, and I have hopes that it's going to have, stealth in it. It's going to bring us back to what made the series great, or at least near the end of the story, it kind of takes us in a direction that, hey, we're moving back this way, back to what made the series great. We're going back to the Assassin's Creed and all of that, and whatever capacity that is. Because at this point, guys, a lot of people don't even know what's going on with the story, and so I think it's important that they kind of give us that background as to where the story is and where it's going moving forward. But that's, in my opinion, guys, what Assassin's Creed got wrong. I'd love to hear from you guys. Do you guys agree? Do you disagree? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. And for more Assassin's Creed content and videos, stay here with Zero TV.